All right, welcome and good morning and good afternoon to some of our viewers in Australia as well. So today so in this webinar, we're gonna talk a little bit about how MCI, one of our long-standing partners, uses the GlueUp platform to simplify their operations, drive results for their association customers. So my name is William. I'm the business development director here in our Glue Up Hong Kong office. And today I'm joined by Marcel Ewals from MCI. Um, Marcel is the director of associations, and I'll let him tell a little bit more about his role at MCI and some of his responsibilities as well. So thank you for being here, Marcel.
Yes, hi everybody, and thank you, William, for having me in this webinar today. Just to introduce what we do at MCI. So MCI is a global association management and event marketing company. I run the team based in Singapore. That is the regional team for association solutions. And that includes being a professional conference organizer as well as association management. And we have an array of clients. The majority is based out of the US, but a lot of them are regional societies that we look after. And we do that through a team of about 25 people stationed all over Asia, from Japan, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines at the moment. And yeah, that's sort of our team. So to give you guys some concept, other than doing conferences, the average conference size, like most PCOs, is 500 up, that we do. And as well, we do the association management, so we're membership side, and we look after roughly about 45,000 members directly, and there's some federations in there. So there's another 200, 300,000, depending on how you calculate these numbers that we sort of influence from our seats here.
Right. Thank you for providing that background. So I know we've obviously in my kind of tenure here at Glue Up more than 7 years now. We've been working together on a lot of these different projects and clients of yours. Um, I don't even know if you probably have a clear memory of it, but it's been a while now. What were some of the software applications that you used before we started working together and before you switched over to Glue Up?
As a matter of fact, that's the most interesting one, because if it's a global client, they work on the big US systems, Personify and all those,
Hmm.
which we know that they cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, etc. And we work with them in as a remote user. But for the other societies that we started growing with, and we actually, if you recall, one of our first association that we brought in was the International Federation of Landscape Architects for
I
Asia
do.
Pacific. They're still there. They've matured over the years, and they were a pen and paper kind of organization. And
Hmm.
so it was the first organization that really needed to transition. And we realized that once we moved from pen and paper straight into the automation that Blua provided, we found ourselves recovering tons of money. So that's the interesting learning. There's a lot of, when you do accounting process, particularly associations, and their membership that is unpaid over the years, the moment you automate that, these things pop up like crazy, which they don't
Mm.
do when you use books. So I do recall that for one of the, which was a national society that we onboarded, we recovered, I think, 15,000 US dollars worth of
Wow.
outstanding fees just in the first year. That obviously went away after that, so we does a good job. So that was the interesting part. Um, so where we are today, and I think that's the most noteworthy, is that we will not onboard a client that's paper. If you're paper-based, you have one option. You either come with your system and we will evaluate if you like the system, or you have to transition into GlueUp, at least GlueUp as the base platform to be there. And we have won some clients that way, and we've also lost some clients saying, "Well, we're not going to automate at this point, whatever value they have." But for us, it's been a requirement that unless you automate, we don't offer value for money as an association management company because we're doing bookkeeping. And if you want to hire a bookkeeper, go ahead, but that's
Right,
not our
right.
job. Our job is to operate and grow the societies.
Wow, that I actually did not know that you guys had this as a hard rule, which is great. That definitely forces that yeah, that digital transformation. Okay, so in terms of, so you kind of already answered at what point you needed it. A lot of this was manual, but also from a challenge perspective, not just the technology, but the lack of support from an ongoing support standpoint. Um, what would you say that your realization was when you were like, okay, we need a unified technology system and not just siloed software platforms.
Yeah, so when we sort of met Glue Up, we were in a world that you'd have a conference software and you have a membership software and you have all these things and very few things talk together. I guess, you were really one of the first that sort of integrated the key components. And what really made it work for us was the UX, right? The user interface that we had. I remember my first experience, which was basically, hey, this is cool software, it looks good. I played with the buttons. Literally at the end of the day, I was a semi super user, and we still have that experience. So in preparation of this phone call, I called some of our junior staff who started working with Glue Up, and they've all said the same thing. It's like, look, this is a software I open up. I understand. I have a dashboard. I can see everything that happens, and the
Right.
dashboard was only added a couple of years ago, but it added so much. I can see how many members are up for renewal. I can see the transactions. I can automate the renewal process. And the one thing that was mentioned this morning, the coolest thing that you guys added lately is the membership installment payments.
Oh,
Which really is particularly for Asia Pacific, where there is a purchasing power challenge for many people, particularly on the value for money of membership, etc. That lowers the barrier of dropping out, and is a great development.
all right. Well, on that exact note, value for money. This is something I personally, when I go out to a new opportunity to bring to convince them of that value that GlowUp could bring to their organization. When would you say, in terms of size or budget or activity level, would you say is a good time or a right time for an organization to say, okay, we can now invest in a digital solution? Has there been examples, for example, where you go, okay, you guys aren't at that stage yet. You're not ready for this. You can manage it maybe manually even.
I mean, I think we're beyond manual days anyway. Anybody who's still doing manual list is really burning a lot of time and hours on resources that can be automated. Um, I think the question is not to look at how big your membership is. The question is how big is your community? Because
Mm.
nowadays we're looking at the size, not on how many members I have, but how many people do I communicate with and how do I bring them into the system? So where we use glue up very strategically is, for example, the Glaucoma Society.
Yep.
We had thousands of people on the mailing list in glue up system. And right now we've transitioned them all into accounts. As they move forward, as they engage with them, we require them to open an account. And so we move them from having an account so we can track them. We know the data, we know more of the profile, etc. That gives us data that we can discuss with our pharmaceutical industry partners in terms of, what our marketing value is, what our strength is as an association. And eventually we've moved them into what we call a free membership model, the free mo that's coming out.
Right.
And we see that
Right.
people actually commit to, a membership role and having we increase the access over time. And
Right.
that's been a great model. So for us, coming back to IFLA, that we created the first one. IFLA currently is a community of over 22,000 architects, right? That's huge. When we started, I remember, I think we were in the 3 or 4 thousand.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome to hear. You had mentioned your team members and how, they found it to be very user-friendly, easy to use platform. Um, how do you guys approach implementing GlueUp for your client organizations?
We do have a couple of people that are most experienced. I think, you can set up Glue Up relatively easily for a client, but there's some tricks and bells and whistles where experience matter. And you can get that from your customer support, but you have to ask the right questions to get the right answers. And
Right,
so
right.
so we have, Soben, one of our super users, who've been operating it since the beginning, and he
Yep.
doesn't do the day to day. He only does the technical work within that, and that's all the way from setting up campaigns or setting up membership structure, renewal process, pricing, all of that. We carefully do by 2 or 3 people who have that experience, and then from day to day operation, Tom, Dick, and Harry can easily learn that in a few minutes.
Okay. In terms of just, I guess, lessons learned throughout the years of working with our team, working with the different upgrades we've made to the platform over the years, what would you say if you had a chance to go back to the beginning? What would you do differently if you had that choice?
Um, it really depends. Every client has different needs, right?
Mm.
One is focusing we've gone through the COVID system with the webinars and all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so we do have different requirements. Um, you know, we sometimes use Blue Up at least as the fundamental place where people register so we can track engagement. That's the number one rule we have is how to track membership and community activities is to make sure there's some kind of process in there, and I can't take that out of the system. But if we do, for example, a webinar somewhere, etc., we might take that. We do the registration within ClueUp, but we might do the actual event in Zoom outside on a different platform or on I think we're doing a lot on multi-channels like YouTube, Twitter, etc. that go out. Um, and that's because that's the requirement. I'm not sure if that answers your question on this one.
Yeah,
But
yep, it does, definitely. In terms of, okay, so that we talked a little bit about value add when clients or customers are looking to invest in a platform. If I had to ask you for your maybe top three value propositions that Glue Up offers your clients, for example, time saved, is what would be your top three?
I think relatively easy. Membership automation, number one, is
Automation.
is
Yep.
the key proposition. Number two is communication. The fact that your entire marketing suite is not in an external system, but is directly built in, measures opening rate, success, etc. That's the other one. And then the rest is events, right? To open an event page, whatever format, can take 3 minutes, and it's linked, it's integrated. So these are the key components that's integrated. Uh, you're aware, I also like the fact that you're now moving towards LMS, learning management system
Right.
integration. I think that's a key component for association. They're not all associations are into developing learning management modules, but it is becoming more because post-COVID, many of the associations are looking at different revenue tracks. So education is a big growing item. Some are
Yep.
purely education based. It really depends on the background. So that offers further integrations in the strategy. So we really have to look at for every association, we always look at what are the key points, what is the thing. For 90% of what we do is membership and communications, and those are for me the two most important features.
Okay. Awesome. We'll flip this around a little bit. Now on a vice versa, in terms of challenges that you've had to, or I should say obstacles in terms of reasons why clients do not want to go digital, are there maybe a top three, you know, reasons where they said this is not something we want to spend money on, or we don't think it's worth the investment?
I mean, this is part of the sales process, right? So,
Exactly.
clients, we do not onboard clients until we have clarity on that matter for two reasons. We don't want to operate a system that we can't operate or doesn't work as they do. And if they don't have a system, the issue is either they've never thought about it, they've never figured out how to do it. Um, and so we've built it into our structure, saying if you do not have a system, we're going to charge you whatever X amount of dollars for administration and accounting fees. If you
Mm,
do not want that fee, we will waive it to you, but we're going to move you into automation, which is
right,
free, which we're doing it free of charge. And so we
right.
really don't give them a choice. But generally, it's the ignorance. The people that are in leadership positions are not doing the day-to-day operation. And if you have a small association that's led by the secretaries, etc., they don't really are involved. And then within Asia, there are plenty of associations that do not legally exist. They just exist
Right,
somewhere
right.
on paper somewhere. And so then everything is much more loose than what we see.
Okay, okay. Now, just kind of, well, we're gonna let you have a chance to talk about your experience with our support team, our customer success. What are over the years working with our customer success team and our operations team, um, what type of improvements have you seen with our kind of SOP? And are there additional improvements that you would suggest for us for the future?
Okay,
Don't
that's
be
I
too
didn't come
blunt now.
prepared. I didn't come prepared for that one. Um, no, I think let's first talk about the process. When we first started, there was, one person assigned to us, and we were communicating, etc. That's now completely changed, right? You've evolved into having a success team, having regular scheduled training classes. A lot of my teams will attend the learning webinars for new features.
Right.
Uh, you've also been to our office several times and said, tell us what we need. And by the way, we're developing this and that. Can we have your feedback?
Mm,
I know we personally, MCI has had great impact in terms of your CPE accreditation software development because we
yep.
were explaining our use case that was different from the use case you were
Yep.
developing, and to say, well, we need certain flexibilities for this to work. Um, so I think that part has been really good. Right now, what we like is to see on a regular basis what is in the pipeline, what is coming, because
Build
at
up.
certain
Yep.
moment, there are things where we say there's a shortfall. We need to move our businesses the way associations operate. There's an evolution process, and we need to stay relevant. And it's good to know when you guys are working towards something and whether or not it comes out 1 year or 2 years later.
Right.
Those are, but it's just to know that saying, hey, you're working on something so we can start thinking about how to apply it. When you guys announced it saying we're going to start working on the LMS, we already started thinking about, wait a minute, how can I start talking to my customers about this new feature integration? And how do we monetize that? How can we build this as a new project for the
Mm,
association? So we're very proactive with what comes out rather than reactive in terms of, hey, there's a new feature. Should we use it? Yes or no?
right. 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 No, I think that also on that point, I'll add my 2 cents to it. It's very important for us also to have that relationship with our partners. Because we've had such a long-standing relationship with MCI, um, and with other clients as well, where a lot of the features and the functionality in our platform are from your best practices, what you guys do on a daily basis, what you need to run your organizations or your client organizations. And that's a very kind of core culture of our platform and how we product develop it. Okay, very good. That's okay. So in terms of feedback, so you've kind of given me your feedback with your team's feedback. What about client feedback? Have you guys heard anything from clients specifically, whether they liked, didn't like, what type of changes they want to see down the line? Anything?
I mean, I think that there are certain expectations from a user perspective, right? What is good is the manager app and all that, the fact that they have insights. But we find out that our clients technically don't use it. They come back to us asking for the reports,
Mm,
etc. So it's more like they haven't really gone into the habit, but a lot of them are volunteers, so we have to expect that. Um,
right.
but it kind of changes from a user point of view when you're a member. I think I think the next phase, I hope that we can see some further development in terms of the user, the default website for the user and how that interacts with them to make it a bit more easier flowing, personal over the time, because we can communicate out very well, but we want a two-way communication. And I think that, sort of the market is moving that way, where we want to see that people can interact and respond to us
Yep.
way. There are lots of tools within GlueUp there for it. But I think they're not yet at a total level where this is like a fluid movement where we have a
Right.
huge uptake for it.
Okay, understood. Yeah, you've given me that feedback before, and that is something
Mhm.
that we're working on. So I appreciate that. Okay. Um, Kind of last few questions. In terms of advice now, what would you give in terms of advice to leaders or executives, for these associations that have not yet adopted a digital solution, that are probably even trying to hold back, trying to keep things manual? What type of advice do you give?
Well, first of all, I want to start with the fact that over the last few years, I get 3 or 4 phone calls a year from association leaders or PCOs or AMCs that call us and say, "Hey, I've seen your face on the website. Can
On
I
our
can I get a
website.
Yes, your website.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like, can we have a talk about what's your experience, what do you think, etc." And I
Oh,
have that from
fantastic.
outside of MCI, but I also have had phone calls from MCI London, as you know, MCI Germany, and other
Mm,
offices that you guys have been talking to. Um, and so, what is the advice I give? I give generally, I mean, first of all, I give the same experience that I've just shared with you today. It's like, how does it work? For me, the value for money, if you compare to the average systems, your price point is very good for the amount of features that you get. If you were to break that up and trying to integrate it, even though now we're in the world of APIs, yeah, good luck. You
right.
you still need to have a technical person to do that. Well, but
Exactly.
this is an
Need that
often
in-house.
what we've always liked about GlueUp is the fact that it's an off-the-shelf kind of solution, right? You pick
Right.
it up, you build it, that's it, it goes. It doesn't have 200,000 golden bells and whistles, but it does what it does really, really well. And I think that that's the number one thing. Going back to your question, what do I tell a client? Um, Depending on who they are, it's always the importance of shifting the workload to automation. Data is everything. We're all talking about data. Well, give me the data. How many emails are being opened every time? How many people register and how many come back and etc. You want to have that data. You want to make sure that you don't have databases in Zoom here and for one event here and in Cvent and in whatever, keep them in one place because that's what you monetize. The only thing that we have is association, is our community. And if we don't know, if we spread that all over different systems, then you're gonna lose opportunity. And that's something you want to tell to every client is like, this is 2025. We don't do
Right. Right.
Excel sheets anymore. We don't do different. It must be integrated. And yeah. It's
Yep.
just part of the evolution. It's time
Awesome.
if they haven't done it. So,
Yep, yep. No, that's a great insight, and I appreciate that. And that definitely will help, myself and my own sales efforts. Just
but
it, go
Will,
ahead, go
Will,
ahead.
I give you one more because I find this so interesting. So we work with big US clients, right, who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on their systems.
Yep.
And what we now see is that basically everybody is trying to get out of these systems because they've become
Mm,
they didn't move on. They've been customized to crazy proportions that they no longer function. And
right.
literally every US client I have is exiting the legacy systems and are looking for new ways. And yeah, that's just interesting. I mean, that's a development. And therefore I think it's important that you guys still have an understanding for saying we customize, but it gets integrated over the whole platform
Right.
because we cannot end up like what those big companies have done in the past.
Right. And to your point, I've actually heard the same thing from some of my clients as well, where they've basically had buyer's remorse after they've purchased these massive systems, these ERPs almost, and they're only using, I've heard some percentages that are quite low, like 20% to 25% of those features are what they use. The other 75, 80% of those features they never touch, but they are paying for it. And then yeah, so that's a great point as well in terms of the trend in the market. But yeah, this has been really good insight. I want to kind of give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about MCI. Is there any, you know, services, products that you guys are launching? Any new developments from your end that you want to talk a bit about before we end this?
I think like every company, we're figuring out how to be ahead of the curve in terms of how AI might impact us. What we are doing is we're automating a lot of things now, particularly email response systems, etc. So MCI has developed a software called Jade, which is an AI that can reply to emails in currently, I think, 66 languages.
Wow.
We use it for every major trade show that we support in the US, and we're now rolling that out to Asia. So we're in that phase where we're trying to figure out. I think since I'm talking to association colleagues here, I presume we're very interested to learn your experience as well, and also see which tools work for you. I'm particularly interested in the learning management process. And that what I mean is how do, before we're all working with a committee and a committee would develop a learning module and that process would take a year. Now with AI, technically I can take an abstract or a scientific paper, turn it, ask AI to make a training program for it, and then give it to the
Right.
committee for review so I can speed up the whole process. Now we're still looking for the right tools for that. We're experimenting with that. I just want to ask the audience if you have any idea, please reach out to me. I'd love to share I'd love to hear what you have learned and yeah, how we can do things.
Yep. That is we hear AI constantly now. And that is something that is front and center for every organization, our organization as well, and how we can integrate it, but integrate it in a in a usable way and not just jam AI into your product or service for the sake of AI. And I think that's important to do and to kind of develop and flesh out. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for that insight, Marcel. Really learned a lot today. And as Marcel mentioned, for our viewers, definitely send us an email. You can send Marcel an email as well. We are happy to hear what your experiences, your feedback is. And thank you for joining us. All right.
All right. Were there any questions just before we go?
I Oh, hold on.
There
Actually,
are
we
two
do.
questions.
Okay, okay. Sorry. Almost missed that. For Marcel, we got from Jackie Douglas. I manage the APAC region for HSMAI, which is managed by MCI in the Americas. Oh, have you gotten any experience implementing GlueUp for global associations with 5 regions? Great
Um,
question. What
Great
is it,
question
Marcel?
indeed. Okay, so um, the have I in a global perspective, no, but in a regional perspective, yes. So within GlueUp, you can build hierarchies. So you can have the main organization, and underneath you can create satellites. So technically, you can create one for Latin America, you can create one for US, that only the US can operate, and then you can break that further down just similar to chapters. It's actually your chapter model, right, Will? Um, so that's one way of doing it, and that means that people in lower in the hierarchy only have access to that information. It's sort of a microsite of glue up, but all the information trickle back up to the top. So you have oversight of all the content and information, what happens in any local one, and whatever they do in terms of a local chapter webinar, all that registration information, etc., bubbles up to you on the top without them sort of having access to the rest of the information. So that's a really good one. Yeah,
And
Jackie, reach out to me if you have any questions. Sorry.
yeah, there was a second question. Do you guys have a feature called Articulate? She says, Marcel, Articulate is great. You get 2 different levels of author tools so that you can use the relevant one. They have reviewing function, publishing, LMS, and great translation. I'm not even sure what she's
Thank
talking about, but you probably know what she's
I,
talking about.
I think she's referring to my question, do you have a tool that can turn it into learning
Oh, oh,
modules? And
oh,
I think
oh,
that's
gotcha.
exactly what it is. So thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of questions. But like I said, feel free to email us later on if you think of other questions to ask. On that note, then, yeah, we're gonna end this here and look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Thank you again,
Thank
Marcel.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Bye bye.
All right, bye bye now.